I think we 2 or 3 weeks.
Not 3 weeks. If it is
We'll
3
leave
weeks,
because there's no reason for us to do this. Look, problem with the Strait, a guy can take a mine, drop it in the water, and say, "Oh, it's unsafe." It's not like you're taking out an army or you're taking out a country, or they can drop it, or you can take a machine gun from the shore and shoot a few bullets at a ship, or maybe an over-the-shoulder missile, small missiles. That's not for us. That'll be for France. That'll be for whoever's using the Strait.
Investors betting that we are near the end of this military campaign in the Middle East. And tonight, will we find out if they're right or wrong? President Trump set to address the nation this evening, and markets are rallying hard on second day in a row on signs that the Iran conflict could wrap up by month's end. Welcome to the Big Money Show. I'm Dagan McDowell, along with my co-hosts Taylor Riggs, Brian Brenberg, Jackie DeAngelis, and with us for this hour, Michael Lee, strategy founder, Michael Lee. Polite opera applause.
Golf clap. Golf clap.
The president saying the core objective, eliminating Iran's nuclear threat, has already been achieved. And now the strategy is shifting from full-scale engagement to potential exit. Here's the catch. The Strait of Hormuz is still under a heavy blockade. I think that the number of ships going through on a daily basis is down about 94% from the pre-war levels. But the president says that's not our problem. The countries that use the strait should be defending it. The U.S. may be stepping back, but will the rest of the world be stepping in? Mike, how do you see all this?
Look, I love to see the markets rallying substantially. I think this has been the hope from the beginning that this would be a somewhat, a military operation, not a long, drawn out, drag-on war. And the markets are kind of welcoming this news. And we're in a really oversold situation setting up for this. I think the Mag 7, as of this morning, down almost 12% year to date. Like we have a nice rally here. And what's really interesting from a stock perspective is the price to earnings multiple compression we've gotten this year. So this quarter, we're looking at 12% earnings growth. Next quarter, 18%, 19%, 20% to close out the year. That's pretty spectacular. Guidance has been going up. This was like a 2 or 3 standard deviation this last quarter in terms of raising guidance. The number of companies that brought it up. So when guidance is going up and the rate of earnings growth is increasing, it's almost never that you see price to earnings multiples come in and you're getting to extreme oversold situations. When you look at prime brokerage data, you look at the short positioning on the Russell 2000, you're at levels not seen since COVID, setting us up for a pretty spectacular rally. The Mag 7 has been thrown out like a piece of trash. No one's positioned to go long here, setting yourself for a prolonged rally. Obviously, if the president says tonight, if he reverses course, that this is going to be like a long, drawn-out, drag-on battle, that's all. Like the bad news could get worse, but it doesn't seem like we're going to get that, although I have no insider information, but I'm very positive on stocks right now. And if we do get another pullback, if you're buying good companies, you don't need the money next month or next quarter or not until next year or the year after, you're getting some real deals right here.
Yeah, given the epic rally, and anybody just jump in, given the epic rally yesterday and the follow-on today, the bet is that everything disrupted by this Iran conflict is just going to go back to normal in a couple of weeks. Oil is down, right? Jackie's shaking her head. Oil is down below $100 a barrel. And longer-term interest rates, a 10-year Treasury yield is down a little bit today, so they're in check. But we're back to, glory, glory, hunky-dory. The markets are only down in the last month less than 6% at this point. That's a big bet here because it's all about the Strait of Hormuz. And to think that, the lockup in the Strait of Hormuz has nothing to do with the United States is not true. If oil ain't moving, if commodities ain't moving, then our prices here in the United States will remain high full stop.
Yes, that is all true. And also we've seen in other conflicts and for other reasons when oil prices have gone this high, they always come down at a really much slower pace than they tend to rise. So I think overall, whether you're talking about the equity markets or oil, maybe by the year end, we could see things balance out, but it will not definitely happen overnight, Dagan. I agree with you 100%. President Trump has been updating us in these sort of gaggles. Like we played a soundbite there where he gave us an update. We're in week 5 and he's saying it's another 2 to 3 weeks of this war. So we've got a timeline update. We get the numbers on how much of the ammunition has been taken out by the military, by the Israelis. You know, I'm thinking to myself, why is he having an address tonight? Which, by the way, you can watch here on Fox Business. He's got to answer 2 central questions that he hasn't answered in any of these sort of off-the-cuff little gaggles that he does. How are the talks going? The supposed talks that they are having with the Iranian regime. That's a question. Were these real talks? Are they being taken seriously? Are both sides so dug in that there was really never any hope for compromise? That's my personal belief. I think it was a step to get to the next place. But the reason I think that he might be having this address, wanting to communicate directly with the American people, is because within this 2 to 3 weeks that he's forecasting, they need to step up their operations in a way that people are not expecting. And I think that's going to have major consequences for the stock market, for the risk premiums, for this idea that this conflict is more escalated than it was supposed to be from the beginning. You know, that's basically it. He's got to give us an update and he's got to look people in the eye. And I don't want to say this. I don't want to say that he sent troops over there so that he can use them. But I brought up the point of the enriched uranium yesterday, and I'm still wondering how we're going to get that out. If this is like, we've got to see this through, we've got to finish it because we started it and we're maybe, you know, 80% there, then that would mean getting the uranium. And it also would mean, to your point, Dagan, about the strait, you can never trust that that strait is going to be freely usable as long as anybody from this regime is in charge in some way. I do not see our European allies stepping up to the plate and all of a sudden starting conflicts with Iran because they can't get their materials through the strait. So I see some key problems here, unfortunately, that I think the president's going to have to address.
But what about the UAE?
What about him?
UAE wants to force Hormuz open, willing to join the fight. Gulf state begins effort to persuade U.S. and others to open waterway by, quote, any means necessary.
I don't think they can do it.
But it seems like a big deal. Bahrain, too. Bahrain's...
I lived in Bahrain.
Bahrain.
Bahrain's like this big.
Yeah, you know Bahrain. I don't have to explain Bahrain to you. I think it's a big deal because these guys have never, ever, ever, ever said, we want to go in and use force if necessary to kick Iran out of the strait. And they are saying it openly. In fact, Bahrain is going to the UN and sponsoring a resolution, which will probably fail, right? Because UN never helps with anything. But the point is, they're going there to say we want to use force. So I agree with you. I think our European allies are gutless, and they've been unhelpful so far. But I think what's happening is President Trump threw down the gauntlet and he said, I don't think he actually believes that the strait has nothing to do with the U.S., but I think he's using strong language to say we will not secure this by ourselves. The rest of you who use this are going to pay and you're going to help. And I think that message has gotten out. I think that Gulf, I'm going to call them Gulf allies, hear it and they know they have a role to play. I think that is going to shame Europe into helping in some way. And if by some miracle the UN says you can go in and secure this thing, then I think Europeans will have the stupid cover they need. But my point is, this to me, now we'll see what he says tonight, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what he's going to say. He may say our troops are going to play a meaningful role, and that could be a big deal. But it feels more like the kind of moves that tell me we're close to the beginning to the beginning of the end than we are to the beginning of some forever war. This does not feel like forever war stuff. This feels like bring it to a close, show up and do your job world.
He does talk like that, though, about the Strait of Hormuz. He said yesterday to all of the countries that can't get jet fuel. Well, it's not just jet fuel that we're talking about. It is oil, other refined product, it's helium, fertilizer. He said, buy from us, we have plenty. No, we don't. We are a net importer of oil. Last year, 2.2 million barrels a day. It wasn't from that region. It was from Canada, but we're not a net exporter of oil, or weren't. And then he said, you have to learn to fight for yourself. Hey, we agree about that, but we're not going to be there to help you. He needs to talk to the American people because their gas prices are high and diesel prices are soaring. And people are feeling the crunch, and they voted for President Trump to make their lives better and more affordable. And right now, everything is heading in the wrong direction. And he needs to talk about that and stop acting like, oh, it's not our problem. Well, we're the ones who kicked the hornet's nest.
I do come with some good news. I don't think everything, all hope is lost, Dagan, and here's why. We've got some good economic. Well, let me start with the markets, and I'll go to some economic news. It's not been great for the markets, but I think, Mike, to your point, we call the Mag 7 the Lag 7 because they've been lagging down, but maybe we're gonna make them great again, and they'll be the Mag 7. On a combined basis, trading at less than 25 times forward earnings. That's pretty cheap. The last time this happened, it was Liberation Day, and they rallied for a couple months after that, especially when you think about how cheap they are when you're looking at earnings expectations for the second and third quarter for Mag 7 of like 40%, 50%. Not bad. So I think you're starting to see maybe people come in here and maybe look at attractive opportunities. ADP number, I know it's rough, it's a small sample, and it doesn't correlate with the payrolls data. But what I do like within ADP this morning is very small businesses drove pretty much all of the gains. It was all employees with fewer than 20, employers with fewer than 20 employees. So if you're a tiny, tiny company, you just hired 112,000 workers. Now that was offset by the big companies that are laying off, but I like to hear that the small engine of growth is coming. Finally, the March ISM numbers that we got this morning.
Right. See, I didn't touch any of this because I left it all for you.
You left it all for me.
All of this data.
All
it was
the
a
good
lot.
news, Dagan.
Retail,
I'm here for
manufacturing.
it. And
Very generous.
correct me if I'm wrong, March ISM manufacturing was not bad. It ticked up. It was better than expected. This is March. This is peak war. We're all panicking. Now, the internals, a little iffy, but overall number is good. Employment was below 50, but it's been that way since September of 2023. So I didn't see a massive drop-off. When they're surveying some of these manufacturing companies, it was like a 1-to-1 ratio of positives to negatives. I was expecting like a 2-to-1 ratio of negatives, a 3-to-1 ratio of negatives. We didn't get that. So if that was the worst of what it was, and we'll see how April goes, I am very impressed by the resiliency of manufacturers, of some of the economic data so far in March.
So, Dagan, you touched on treasury rates earlier, and you've seen a dump, like treasury rates have gone higher, which means bond prices have sold off. Same thing with gold. My theory on that is, these Gulf states are taking in hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue a day pre-war. Now they're taking in almost zero. Right. So in those situations, those sovereign wealth funds, all those entities own a ton of gold.
Selling gold.
They own a ton of treasuries. Like in these times of crisis, you don't sell what you want, you sell what you can. And I believe that's kind of added to the pressure because when war happens, typically gold, you get a flight to safety and a flight to quality. And you should have seen a rally somewhat in the 30-year treasury. And we've seen that on some days where it's gotten particularly ugly.
No, you shouldn't, because we're so deep in debt and burdened with just the interest on our debt. If we decide, we're going to go to war, and it's going to cost $2 billion a day, you're going to demand a higher payout if you're going to loan money to Uncle Sam. That's just simple. And investors have been burned on the ass the last 5 years with what happened during COVID and these reckless politicians and the central bankers, and what lost 40, 50% of their money in longer term treasuries. That just makes sense. You might be right, but if I'm going to buy, like, I talk to older people who will not buy treasuries here because they're so deeply concerned about losing their shirts just like they did during COVID in the last 5 years.
And I don't want to make a joke, but the reports are that SpaceX has filed confidentially for that IPO. They could pull it if market conditions are bad, but the fact that they're going forward with it, to me, also a sign there could be calmness on the horizon. There is calmness if you're willing to IPO in this market.
Yeah, I'd be a buyer of rates here. I'd be a buyer of tech stocks right here. I think you're going to get a recovery, and I think as bad as the U.S. fiscal situation is, tell me another global bond market or global sovereign treasury market, if you will, that's anywhere close to us or better. It's not. It's like China's a dumpster fire.
What-
Europe, right? So it's we're the only game in town for now. I think that'll go on for a long period of time. But typically, you should have seen gold rally in a situation like this. You saw it puke. I think the same thing happened with treasuries, my opinion.
Can I say one quick thing before we go to your kicking the hornet's nest? You had that Senate candidate, Abdul El Sayed, on this morning on Newsroom with Bill. And they are using these talking points, the high gas prices, the affordability that people were supposed to have under President Trump that they are not having. They are assuming that this is going to be a forever war that the American people didn't want. And so they're going out there and they are spreading that kind of messaging. He needs to counter that in some way tonight, to your point, because people at this point are saying, and when are you counting 2 to 3 weeks? Are you counting it from next week? Does that mean we're going to be in this for 9 weeks or 8 weeks? This means something to people. And those gas prices will continue to stay high as we go into the summer driving season. So if he can't counter message there, midterms.
Good thing he's chatting tonight.
Finishing the job includes opening the Strait of Hormuz, and that's in part on the United States to make sure that happens. So
Yeah.
we'll see what we hear.